Okay guys, we're going to be making flaky pie crust today, and you'll see that my daughter's in the corner of the video there if you want to take a sneak peek. But this is a redemption story from that pie crust fail earlier. I recognized what the problems were, which I was using two different kinds of flour, so then I just went back to original white all-purpose flour and butter, and it made a big difference. But this is a redemption story, so I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. This was absolutely delicious. It uses a boatload of butter, which can be a little tricky sometimes depending on, finances, because butter is getting expensive, unfortunately. So this is definitely a treat to me. I ended up using this to make chicken pot pie because it's one of our favorite things. So we're just going ahead and measuring out the flour, sugar, and salt, and just kind of give it a quick mix in the bowl. Then you're going to unwrap your cold butter. Remember, we're going to make sure that it's cold because this is the important part of letting that butter melt in the dough in the oven, and that's what makes it give it that flaky, like our flaky biscuits and stuff. So this is the key trick for making flaky pie crusts and stuff like that. So you're going to kind of cut it all up into those cubes. You flip it over, then you flip it over again, and then you kind of cut it into chunks. And then you're going to use your pastry cutter to just keep mashing it in. This ends up being 3.5 sticks of butter. It ends up being 2 full pies, so which is good. And I would say, you're probably thinking, well, can I just cut it in half? Well, no, unfortunately, because you need 1 egg, and that makes it more difficult. So you can make one for tonight, and then another pie for something else. And you can put it in the freezer easy peasy, and I'll show you that at the end. So it takes a long time to go ahead and cut that butter in, a couple minutes at least. You kind of do a little bit, cut it in, cut some more up, cut it in with the pastry cutter. That's what cut it in means, is using the pastry cutter to cut that butter up into small pea size, because you want them all equally sized-ish. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, so don't overthink it, but just kind of get it all in there and worked in. And then you're going to pour in, or you're going to mix together your apple cider vinegar, crack your 1 egg, and you can put in a couple tablespoons of that, part of your 1/2 cup of water, just to kind of water it down. You're going to pour that into your flour mixture, give that a quick stir, and then you're going to start using a spatula to try to mix it together, and you're going to use the remaining amount of water to pour that in there. And then you're going to need to use your hands. So get on in there and use your hands, and you're going to start forming it into a ball. Now you'll see at first it seems like there is no way this is going to get all incorporated. But if you keep squeezing the butter into the flour and just really working it, like remember your days of Play-Doh, just really get in there. Don't be afraid. It will eventually come together, and it'll be a pretty smooth ball. It doesn't have to be super smooth. We don't want it too dry or wet. So you'll just find that balance of just coming together into being almost Play-Doh, but not as soft as the Play-Doh consistency that I've referred to in other things. Okay, so we've got it formed into our ball. We're going to get a piece of saran wrap to put that into the fridge, because we need it to cool down for at least 15 minutes. You could make this overnight if you want to make it over a 2-day process or a couple hours. But we need to get it in the fridge so that it's cold and that the butter's not melting while we're rolling it out, or becomes a squishy, mushy mess. And we don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and wrap that in the saran wrap, give it a pat, a little spank, get it out of the fridge when it's time, when you're ready. And it's going to be a little bit harder, which is good, which will be easy to work with. You can use a knife. Okay, we've got a cutter right there, our bench scraper. It's got a couple names, bench scraper. I'm going to cut it into 4s. So that means 1 top, 1 bottom for 1 pie, 1 top, 1 bottom for the other pie. Today I'm going to be working with just 2 of them, and I'm going to freeze the others. But we're going to go ahead and sprinkle some flour pretty generously so it doesn't stick, because we do not want our pie crust sticking when we're trying to get it into our actual pie plate. And I'm going to be using my palms just to kind of start getting it flattened out, and then I like to go ahead and use my rolling pin to get it all the way. And this dough worked really great to be able to go ahead and do it really thin. So I had plenty of crust for the top and bottom for this. And how you can kind of measure is to take your pie plate and put it on top of the crust that you're rolling out to see if it's big enough. And it doesn't matter if it's perfectly circle or uniform or not. It's all going in the belly. Now, you can get prettier as you get going, but it's no big deal. And then I'm going to show you a trick of how I pick up the pie crust to put it onto the pie plate, which I happen to be using actually a cast iron pan. But see how I'm kind of rolled it over the rolling pin, and then I'm using that to just kind of carefully put it onto the pie plate itself. So that's a really great trick to be able to pick up that large, it's pretty large, right? Pretty large piece of pastry there. And if you don't have it perfectly circle, you can see I'm ripping off the parts that are a little uneven and putting it where I want it, where it wasn't quite perfectly circle. The next one I do a lot better with a circle, but I'm giving you some pointers that sometimes it just works out anyways. So here we are doing the top one as well. I'm flouring both sides, and I have sped up the video because you've already seen it one time. I'm just going to go. So you kind of go up, down, left, right, and then like a different degree angles every single time to get it more of a circular type of dough or pie crust there. Kind of patching it together. And I'm making a chicken pot pie, so I'm going to go ahead and just do my rolling trick where I pick it up over the rolling pin, then I'm easily able to drape it on top of the pie itself. And I'm kind of just pinching and shoving it into the side there so it's not hanging over, so it doesn't get too burnt. And I'm just going around the whole entire pie like that, and I'm just kind of pinching and pushing it together so it gets sealed. And on most pies, you usually have to cut some kind of slit so that the steam escapes and it doesn't try to boil over in a funky way and kind of ruin a lot of things. So I just kind of used my pastry or my dough, my bench scraper, see, so many names, my bench scraper to cut a couple slices in it, and I'm going to go ahead and bake my chicken pot pie according to the chicken pot pie directions that you guys have in your workbook. So I hope you enjoy making a flaky pie crust, and I can't wait to hear what kind of pie you made. Oh, before I go, here is I'm going to put this in the freezer. So I kind of just put those other two pieces, pushed it back together, wrapped it in that same saran wrap. I'm going to take a marker, write pie crust on it, put it in the freezer until I want to use it.